2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Extremely busy edition of Sports Talk on this Monday night. We thank you for being with us wherever you have dialed in across the state of South Carolina. Hopefully we have not disappointed you so far. We'll get back to Will up in New York in just a couple of minutes. But today, Frank Martin met with the media for a couple of purposes. Number one was to talk about the Gamecocks' upcoming game with Ole Miss in the SEC tournament, but also at the very beginning, he took questions, and the first questions were about the Sports Center feature on him on ESPN. I'm not going to go back into details of that. Hopefully you have seen it, so you'll get the gist of this. So here is Frank Martin. He'd never disclosed this story with the local media here, only with a newspaper reporter in Kansas City he knew from his Kansas State days. And he was asked today about why now, why come forward here publicly with this story.
Bill Ryder, the Kansas City Star, who and I'm not going to say I got close to him while I was there, but he took a liking to our team and I guess my story. And so he covered us pretty closely that first year. And so he and I ended up building a relationship, which is now has gotten real close. He wrote something about it. I don't remember what year it was in. Is that the year? Yeah, he wrote something about it then. But no, I've never shared that experience with our players or with too many people outside of personal friends and family.
In regards to why you felt the timing was right now to share that story, why did you think this was important one to share with everyone and practically the world?
And when did it approach us? Around Christmas time?
Oh, it was like mid-January.
January. And I wasn't, I don't know. You know, I'm an open book, but there's a lot of personal experiences that I don't share publicly. You know, I kind of share the funny ones, you know, the moments that I've made a complete jackass out of myself. I'll share those. But I wasn't going to do it at first. And then I went back to Emily and, you know, and I said, you know what? It's a powerful thing. It's, and if it can help someone else out there realize that it's real, and just the importance of faith and prayer and God and all those things, if it gives someone else hope, you know, why not? And, you know, it's a difficult chapter in my life. You know, it gives me a lot of perspective for how I live. It's hard for my family to speak about it because it was an uncomfortable 3-week period.
Coach, has there been a moment, I know they said in the piece that a lot of people responded saying they had similar experiences, not necessarily in that sense, but have people responded to the story in the day after around the area, the players, people around the school, and has anything surprised you or helped you feel like you were able to share this for the right reasons, being able to soak it in today?
Yeah, I got a call from John Calipari this morning saying that he was at Mass this morning and that his priest spoke about it at Mass. And I haven't been around our players. I've been a hermit for the last 36 hours. I've been in my house. I got on campus early this morning. I've been in my office watching film till I came over here to see you guys. Obviously, I got on social media a little bit yesterday. Not so much to read gossip, but just share some thoughts and you know, obviously they're you know, I think I put something on there about Mike Boynton. I know I put something on there about Dawn and the ladies. I put something else on there early in the morning, and it was because when I opened the message, here's what got me, because I didn't know this until I watched the piece. at the end, the Kansas City Star reporting that they got people calling in saying that that same person showed up at their bedside when they were in dire straits. When I saw that, I was like, wow. And so I thought I'd post something about the piece, which I wasn't going to do. And then I kind of read some of the comments. You know, there's always a clown in every show, you know? I mean, I think there were like 14,000 yesterday when I checked views, and like every comment was like unbelievable. And then there's always that one guy, you know, which is the problem with social media, that people get wrapped up over that one clown rather than the power of 13,000. And, but it, you know, I think the reason I did it was maybe to give others hope and let people know that it's real. And based on the social media feedback, I had some of my players text me like, wow. And I guess that was the purpose. You know, I also had an interesting moment this morning. The assistant at the chiropractor's office, her nephew had been sent home with leukemia and told he had 2 weeks to live from the Vanderbilt hospital last month. I went into this morning, says that the local hospital just cleared him, clean bill of health, that there's no leukemia. So, you know, it's, I don't know. You know, that's why I shared it, just give people hope.
You kind of talked about it earlier, but you said you didn't know that at the end of the piece that there was going to be the stuff about the Kansas City Star and their reports of seeing them there. Just what was your emotional reaction when you saw that, and kind of, you know, why did that hit you so hard, I guess, when you saw that they had other reports?
You know, because I know the impact it made on my family. Got to understand, I was like on the dark side. So I don't recall any of this happening. But I know my wife and my uncle, the two people that were there, when they start speaking about it, I know they're moved to like tears and to nerves and to like, and so I know the impact that moment, that nurse, Angel, because no one at that hospital to this day has any idea who that was. And I've sat with my uncle, who I've got a special bond with, and seen the emotion, his hands shaking 12 years later, of feeling the heat coming through his body as that lady was praying over me. You know, that's powerful stuff, man. And I had, you know, and I've been very private about it. My close friends knew. People knew that I was in a dark place. And there were people planning on flying out there to see me before I went. And then when I read that at the end, that and Bill Ryder and I have developed a very good friendship over the years. He and I are very good friends. And he had never shared with me that people contacted the Kansas City Star saying that that same Asian lady had shown up at their bedside. I'm getting goosebumps here just thinking about it. You know, it's unbelievable.
Questions, guys?
I'm just glad she didn't look like Phil.
Wow. Had to get a shot in.
Still at the end. You just got to get a shot in.
Well, my response to him was, had she looked like me, it probably would have put him over the edge.
Wow.
So that is, let's talk about this when we come back, guys, because, I mean, that is just an unbelievable story. And, you know, it wasn't Frank. It wasn't Frank. It was his uncle and his wife who came in contact with this person.
It's a heck of a line, though, at the end. Heck of a line.
You like that, huh? All right, we'll be right back. Coming up, we're going to hear from Clemson's Dabo Sweeney as well as from USC's Jake Bentley, so stay tuned for that. Did you know 2.5 million children and adults suffer traumatic brain injuries annually? March is Brain Injury Awareness Month. To learn more and to help the Brain Injury Alliance research, educate, and advocate for survivors of brain injury, please visit their website, which is www.biaofsc.com. Don't know if that's an acronym with a pronunciation or not, but we'll just call it biaofsc.com. Phil Kornblutz, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes on this Monday night. Got any quick comments about what you heard from Frank Martin after seeing the video? Love to hear from you. Guys, that's a tremendous story, and I love the way that Frank elaborated on it today, sharing with us, who knew nothing about it, insight about this whole episode that happened to him practically a dozen years ago in Kansas.
You know, I saw the piece early Sunday morning, right after it aired, because they posted it on the social media. So I watched it in the press box before the Clemson USC baseball game, and it's just fascinating, and it really speaks to the power of the higher power. And I think too, you know, it's a very inspiring story, and you know that I go back with Frank to his Kansas State time, and you could tell that once he took the reins from Bob Huggins, you know, he was driven by something, and you never really could put your finger on why. And this starts to kind of tell the rest of that story. And I think, you know, that's why you see him be so intense at times, because he knows he's gotten somewhat of a second chance at life. And you know, that's he's elaborated a lot of times about why, you know, he doesn't, you know, drink anymore, why he doesn't do some of the things that he used to do in his younger life. And that's part of it. And I think that, you know, it's just a very, very inspiring story. And it just makes a man who, if he's on your side, he is lovable. But if it's just somebody who, as on the whole, I don't see how anybody can't like that guy.
Well, you know, it also drives him is the fact that he also used to comment when they win a game. Not bad for a high school coach, is it? He used to say that a lot. But you're right. I think one of the feelings I get, Corn, is the fact that people don't realize that they have the potential of being guardian angels. I know in myself, I've seen real in the flesh people who have come into my life only for moments, but they came in at a time when I needed a comment or something done, and I've never seen them again. And no, you can be a guardian angel that way as well. I remember one day something just hit me. I was just running some errands. I said, you know, I used to have an old coat that I used to wear. It was very warm. I don't wear these things. I got so much clothes in the closet. I wish I'd have given that thing to someone. I reached in the back of the closet, and I hadn't seen the coat in 10 years, and the coat was in the closet. I went to Goodwill, and before I could walk in the door, this gentleman brought another gentleman, a young gentleman, in front and said, this guy's going for a job. He needs a coat. And the coat fit him like a glove before we even walked in the building. And I'm saying something just tapped me on the shoulder and told me to reach in the back of the car and help this guy out.
You just never know.
You know,
you just never know. Well, it's a great story, and it just makes you feel good, no matter what you believe. My vantage point is that Frank Martin is alive and well and kicking, and you know, if he had a guardian angel come down to help him get through it, whatever the case may be, however he feels or his family feels, it's all good for them. And it's a personal thing, and it's what makes you feel good and makes you get through the day. And I'm happy for him and happy that it all turned out well. I had no idea that he had gone through this situation during his time in Kansas. He had never hinted at that to anybody around here. So it's a great story, though. ESPN did a tremendous job revealing that and telling the story. And, you know, just leaves you with your eyes wide open, I think, about all the possibilities out there. All right. Coming up, we're going to hear from USC quarterback Jake Bentley and Clemson coach Dabo Sweeney, the Tigers, getting off the practice field a little while ago, and Sweeney just meeting with the media. Will, we've got plenty of basketball ahead up in New York. Looking forward to the start of the ACC tournament with games tomorrow, 3 games at the Barclay Center. Why don't you run down the schedule for us, kind of set the scene for us for what we'll be looking forward to?
So it all gets underway at noon tomorrow, Corn, again at the Barclays Center. Boston College, the 12 seed, and 13-seeded Georgia Tech. Remember, they play that extra game now because of the fact that there are 15 seeds in the ACC because of the 15 teams. So Notre Dame will take on Pitt, the extra play-in game. And the winner of that game will take on Virginia Tech. The Boston College Georgia Tech winner will take on NC State. That is Clemson's part of the bracket, and I'll outline that in a minute. The Notre Dame game tips off at 2, and then the night game takes place with Syracuse and Wake Forest. That is game 3 on Tuesday. Now, the winner of that Boston College Georgia Tech game will play NC State at 2 o'clock. That's on ESPN, so you can check that game out on Wednesday to see who will play Clemson, and they will also play at 2 o'clock on Thursday. If Clemson does win on Thursday, they would have the first of the 2 semifinals on Friday night. That is a 7 o'clock tip here in Brooklyn, and then a winner, of course, will go on to the championship game of that. That is at 8:30 Saturday night. The unfortunate part about Clemson's bracket is they would run into Virginia more than likely in the semifinal unless Florida State or Louisville can upset the Cavaliers in the quarterfinals before them on Thursday. And the one thing, too, Corn, that to keep in mind is the fact that despite the fact that you don't have Duke or North Carolina on your side of the bracket, Virginia is the one team where Clemson basically looked non-competitive in of all their ACC contests that they played during the regular season.
True that. I mean, they got dominated in Charlottesville in the second half. It was a close game, as I recall, going into halftime.
It was, but they didn't shoot nearly as well as they needed to in that building in order to make things happen. I think Virginia had some shooting struggles as well, and then they just basically, at the beginning of that second half, ran away and hit.
So we're probably, if things, go to chalk here, we're looking at Clemson, NC State, round 3. They split 2 really good games in the regular season. In fact, Clemson could have swept State if DeVoe had hit free throws there at the very end. So you get, let's say the Tigers can get past NC State. They move to the 7 o'clock game on Friday against, we say Virginia, but they're going to face either Louisville or Florida State. Dangerous teams both.
Yeah. Louisville is a dangerous team here because right now we see Joe Lunardi has Louisville as one of the last 4 out. And so they're playing for their NCAA lives if they get that far to beat Virginia. And you know that the Cardinals, even though the shakeup in the coaching staff, it's still Louisville, and they want to get into that tournament, and they'll do all they can. And they can be tenacious on defense against those 3-point shooters against Virginia.
Well, Clemson, too, has they got to go into this thing not being satisfied with what they've done already. Not being satisfied with already having a spot in the NCAA tournament sewn up, something they haven't done since Brad Brownell's first season. Checking Lunardi's new bracket today, it's still the same. Boise, Clemson, a 5 seed, Loyola Chicago, the opponent, with Wichita State, Vermont waiting on the other side in Boise. I don't know how much can Clemson will help itself by getting to the championship. If they can get past NC State, let's say, and then let's say get past Virginia, how much can they help themselves in the seeding process, you think?
I think if they get to Saturday, they can get themselves back on the 4 line just because I think that will be enough of a statement because they would probably include a win over Virginia. If they don't beat Virginia to get to Saturday, then maybe that takes a little bit of the sheen off of it. But there's no shame in winning 2 games in the ACC tournament. The one thing I would question is whether or not Clemson can play with an edge because we saw them play with that away from home in the non-conference season, but some of that edge seemed to dissipate and disappear during the conference season when they were not playing at Little John Coliseum.
Why they force anybody to play UConn in the conference tournament, the women I'm talking about, Cincinnati's playing UConn tonight, and they've got 5 points, and I think they're midway.
They got to have a scrimmage.
They're in the third quarter. I'm sorry. No, they're in the second quarter, and they've got 5 points.
They got to have a
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Yeah, very competitive league out there. Connecticut plays women's basketball. It's 32-5 with 3:03 to play in the second quarter.
Well, that whole league, Corn, was basically developed as, the non-Catholic schools of the Big East, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the American Athletic Conference, to me, is just a joke. The whole damn thing is a joke.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a joke yesterday. Cincinnati, Wichita State, 61-60 for the title.
Wichita State's the only thing in that conference that brings it legitimacy in men's basketball.
Cincinnati does.
Cincinnati does a little bit. But.
Yeah, Cincinnati is one of my dark horses to win the national championship. Yeah. That's how good Cincinnati is.
Right. Yeah. All right. 35-5. Now I'm just watching this. This is, people like to watch train wrecks. I'm just going to watch this thing just to see how bad it will be before Gino calls off the dogs, or in this case, the cats.
Update our poll question for the week, because I'm very curious to see the responses on this.
Well, our poll question of the week is coming off the weekend baseball series. And as you may have seen, Gene Sapakoff of the Post and Courier had a story that the contract with Greenville as the neutral site game ended with this year's game. And so our poll question is, what should be the next location for the neutral site game of the Palmetto Series? Charleston, Charlotte, Greenville, Myrtle Beach, North Augusta. And we also left the opportunity for you to write in your own town. Thus far, 27% say Charleston, 24% say Myrtle Beach, 21% are saying North Augusta, that new ballpark in North Augusta. 14%, 15% say Greenville, and only 10%, 11% say Charlotte. And our two write-ins, see, people, would you read the question? It said neutral site game. So somebody wrote in Columbia.
Really?
And somebody else wrote in Clemson.
Oh, well, they're probably talking about the minor league ballpark in Columbia.
In Columbia, yeah.
Yeah, I doubt that.
No write-in votes for Latta, Corn?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not
yet.
But I haven't
had a chance to vote.
But at the risk of sounding provincial, I do not want the game outside of the state of South Carolina. Keep all that money in state.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't like about Charlotte.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You got a lot of alum in the Charlotte area for both South Carolina and Clemson. It's a beautiful ballpark sitting right in downtown Charlotte. It would be weird to have those two playing across the border, though. Charlotte feels like a South Carolina town, even though it's in North Carolina. Maybe we'll do this. We'll trade them that game for the Panthers. Move the Panthers into South Carolina. We'll trade you that game for 3 years. Huh?
The thing that I told you this on Sunday when we were talking about
update 37-5.
Well, when we were talking about it on Sunday, to me it makes sense, I think, to move this thing around, because it gives different cities a chance to put their own little staple on it. I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing. I don't think that Greenville's necessarily done a bad job. The atmosphere there was amazing, but you do have to admit that it does give a little bit of a skew to the Clemson side, the fact that there were a lot of orange there. And again, a lot of that is due to the environment that's currently around the South Carolina baseball team, and the environments around the Clemson baseball team is obviously very, very positive. But as is given, at least to this rivalry, the two bookend games are for the local towns and the local alumni, and the middle game is for basically, what I like to call the sporting goods store alumni, if you will, the people who not necessarily went to South Carolina or to Clemson, but who are fans of both programs, just despite that, because living in the state. Well,
you also have to figure out the logistics of this thing. I don't know. Are we married to the idea of the neutral site game being the middle game, as it has been with it in Greenville? From a travel standpoint, it's easier for the teams in that, if you start at Clemson on a Friday night, then South Carolina can stay overnight in Greenville. You play in Greenville on Saturday, and then they come down to Columbia on Sunday. It's a day trip for everybody. If you were to say start outside of the home sites and start with a neutral site game, say in Charleston or Myrtle Beach, down in the all the way across the state for Clemson. If I remember correctly, I think the one time we had this down in Charleston, there were some complaints about the travel situation. Clemson going all the way across the state on Friday, playing the game in Charleston on Friday, then busing back to Columbia on Saturday.
Have them travel Thursday. Have them travel Thursday.
Well, they can, I guess, depending on their class schedules and all that. I just recall some criticism of the travel arrangement that had to be made because of having to go all the way across
Carolina
the state.
Sound like it. I know that Clemson's tucked away there, but don't make it like you're driving across the whole state of Texas. South Carolina's not that big, man. Come on.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's 4 hours from one end to the other.
That's not a huge trip
on any given day.
They can't.
I'm just saying. It's comfortable right now when you open at a home site, play in the middle, and finish at a home site. And I think that's the way the coaches. I think the coaches are going to want to have that home field advantage first and last, with the middle being the neutral game.
The capitalist in me wants them to spread the wealth.
So the best thing for them to do, say, if it's in Myrtle Beach one time,
update
both of
43-5.
Both of them start. They play the first game at Clemson, and then both of them have a long drive to Myrtle Beach, and then come to South Carolina.
You got to consider the logistics and just what works out the smoothest in getting this thing done. All right, today we had a chance to talk for the first time with USC's football players this spring. Some offensive guys came over to the zone, and Jake Bentley, the quarterback, was one of those. We asked him how spring is going so far.
It's going good. I mean, it's really a different attitude, through spring practice so far. The guys are really locked in, and really just excited for what's to come. And I mean, the new offense, the new scheme down and everything. It's really been exciting.
What's the big look out there?
It's been great. I mean, it's always great to have, a different way of saying things almost. It could be the same teaching point, but maybe a different way that Coach Warner says, and it hits a different way, and you understand it a little bit better. But it's great to have him. He's very knowledgeable. He's have a lot of experience in football, so it's been great to just pick his brain and learn everything I can.
As enjoyable as it was to have your dad coaching you at the Outback Bowl, ultimately, don't you think this is probably the better deal long term to have somebody new come in with a fresh set of eyes?
I mean, like I said, it's just another my fresh set of eyes, a different way to maybe learn the same thing. It hits in my brain a different way, and just to get different teaching, a different way of saying things, it helps.
How fast are you guys going?
Pretty fast. I mean, we always have we have tempo period, but every period's pretty fast tempo. So just trying to keep the defense on their toes and get the plays in as fast as we can.
How's Debo looking out there?
He's looking good. I mean, it's great to have him back. Obviously, he's a real explosive player for us. Going to do big things. So it's just great to have him back out there leading our receivers and really doing good.
How long does it take to build full trust in that relationship with your quarterback coach? Or maybe trust is the wrong word, but that you communicate easily and you kind of get each other. Does that take a long?
I think the big thing is having a relationship outside of football. I think the thing for us, we've had a couple of recruiting outings and getting able to really spend time together with us, just sitting beside each other at lunch or at dinner. He took us all out to eat, so just getting to really get to know him better off the field helps us better communicate on the field. But I believe in Coach Muschamp, Coach McClendon, and what they have in store for us. And they brought in Coach Warner, so right off the bat, I'm gonna listen to everything he has to say and just try to soak it all in.
How's your weight now?
About 218.
Was that what did you play at last year?
Played at about 223, 222. So cut a few pounds off, trying to just lean up, find a way to get faster. Just aim the game with much speed as you can.
The adjustment to your new center.
It's been good. Donnie's doing a great job. He's really kind of picked off where Allen left off. So Donnie's very smart and really doing a good job for us.
All right, Jake Bentley. More of Jake is up on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, plus comments from Donnell Stanley, Latta, home of champions, native, and Zach Bailey. Coming up after the break, some comments from Clemson coach Dabo Sweeney about another day of practice. Also, he talks about Trevor Lawrence and those quarterbacks. That's coming up.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
At halftime, Connecticut is leading Cincinnati 35-35.
No, it's 43.
I'm sorry, 43-5. Cincinnati did not score in the second quarter. Zero. They are Connecticut. They're seeded number one.
No, I know that, Corn. I'm talking about Cincinnati.
Well, they're obviously seeded.
I think they were 5th or 6th. Will
is this the first round or just middle?
No, they're in the semifinals.
Semifinals.
No, but here's
that's the semifinal game of the American Athletic
Here's
Conference.
the joke, guys. Here's the joke that y'all were looking at. Just before the half, UConn made a layup. But the light seemed to come on before they could count the layup. The referee sat there for 5 minutes looking at the replay to see if they were going to add another score.
You mean at the end of the half?
Yeah, to make it 45-5, and then they finally waved it off after looking at the video.
I'd like to see UConn play with 4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to try and see how close to Cincinnati would get it.
Well, they're not playing against 4, but they're playing against 2. College of Charleston against William and Mary. And they're about to win this ball game to get to the championship game. They lead by 10 with 29 seconds to go. A strange game, Corn, where College of Charleston would stretch it out to 12, get it shaved to 2, go back up by 9, go back down. They cut it to 2. William and Mary never could get any closer than 2 points the entire game.
All right, today Clemson back on the football practice field. Let's see. This would be practice number 3 for the Tigers. 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. Here's Dabo Swinney talking with the media afterwards with the clanging of weights in the background. You know, I'm gonna have to make a donation to Clemson at some point to donate a quiet room away from weights, away from lawnmowers, away from leaf blowers, because no matter who we interview or where we interview them on the Clemson campus, there is always noise in the back room, in the background. So I'm going to donate a quiet room for Clemson for future interviews once I expire in about 30 years. Anyway, here is Dabo talking about today's practice.
Today was the first day we got to do some live work. We were all thud on Saturday, and then today, kind of trying to get them ready for some situational stuff on Wednesday. So today was the first day we actually got on the ground. Not much, but we had a couple periods to begin the practice, and then finished up with a little live period at the end. But off to a good start. It's hard to believe it's 4 days already. It's just flying by. So day 5 Wednesday, and again it'll be a kind of a half scrimmage day, and that'll be all situational stuff. Again, just control, trying to get ready, continue to build them up for that first big scrimmage next Wednesday before we get ready for break. But, we're very pleased with this team, man. This has been a lot of fun these first 4 days. Just great energy and enthusiasm. We've got excellent leadership at every position, and that's really fun as a coach to be able to come out here every day and just know that you, as a coach, you don't have to always be the one to get them going. I've always said the best teams are led from within, and this team has certainly demonstrated that these first 4 days. So really commend those guys for showing up and being ready to go to work. And then, having the young guys mixed in has been a lot of fun. We got a lot of young talent, and seeing those guys for the first time in live situations and with their pads on, and it's been good.
It's still too early to tell. Those guys standing out, just their raw athleticism, the young guys that should be high school seniors right now.
They're all as advertised. They're all. We recruited them for a reason, and they're all just what we hoped they would be. From just a skill standpoint, physical standpoint. This is going to be a really special group. As they go through their careers here.
Now that you've got 4 practices in with Trevor, what are you seeing out of him?
He's done great. We really tweaked a couple things in as far as our practice schedule, as far as how we do some of our stuff, our 7-on-7 in particular, because I'm just trying to get all 4 of those guys reps, and that's been really good because right now we got a lot of bodies, and so we've been able to have enough guys, DBs, and we're a little thin at corner, but enough DBs to do 4 groups basically is what we're doing. And really just the main purpose for that is to get this quarterback a ton of reps. So it's been good, but he's done a really nice job. He's very poised. Obviously he's skilled. He's a very poised guy too. And
great.
So far he's really demonstrated good demeanor and picking things up well. So it's a good group. It's a good group.
Okay, Dabo Swinney from a little while ago. We also have interviews with Christian Wilkins and other Clemson players. We'll have more up for you on our website from Clemson, SportsTalkSC.com. If you missed any of the other stuff tonight, USC football players on our website. Also, the comments from Frank Martin from earlier today. We'll hear more from Frank tomorrow, previewing the game with Ole Miss, which should be a good contest in the opening day of play for the SEC tournament. The Gamecocks go from the Final Four of the NCAA tournament last year to the first four of the SEC tournament this year. Not exactly what they had in mind, guys, but when you consider everything, if they could win an SEC tournament game and finish with a winning record, depending on how much damage they can do in St. Louis, considering all the injuries, the losses of personnel, the unexpected losses of personnel, not having a true point guard, this is kind of a get-by year, maybe a get-through year for Frank Martin and company, and then retool and come back strong next year.
Well, it's just so very, very hard to have a sustained team to get to the NCAA tournament every year if you're not a national power. I mean, I think of teams that have less basketball history than South Carolina does. Like, think about Northwestern, who made its first NCAA tournament in school history last year, and they're not going to make it this year. So it's not like that this is something that's completely unique to South Carolina. And people talk about, wanting to cash in on, the Final Four appearance last year. That's very, very difficult to do in an instant. It takes many, many years, many generations to try and get inside the heads of the high school players and get on their radar, because of the fact that they're just so attracted to these blue blood programs, the Dukes, the UNCs, the Kansases, the Kentuckys of the world. It's very, very hard to pry the best talent away from those. The rich get richer in that sport more than any other.
And that's why you got to have talent that you can nurture and develop over time. And when they missed Corn, and I enjoyed seeing them. They lost the tournament game in the Ohio Valley Conference, but to see the athleticism of Jamal Gregory, who led his team in block shots at 6'3", and then, of course, the unfortunate BB gun incident, and he was out at South Carolina because I was showing Will the other day that tremendous dunk he had at Ole Miss that spurred them on to an 11-point comeback with only 3 minutes to go. What they could have had, he would have been, I think, a senior this year. Had he not gone into that problem.
Yeah, they lost some good players. They lost some good pieces. Nothing that you would say is exorbitant in terms of overall talent, but just some good pieces. A guard here, a center here, a power forward there. All these guys left for one reason or another. And, they got through it last year because they had, and I'm starting to believe this now more and more after seeing Clemson emerge this year, age and experience and being together for 2 or 3 years like USC was last year, like Clemson is this year. It means a lot in college basketball. And teams that grow up together, get old together, tend to play well together and do some good stuff and make the tournament.
And a final just in, College of Charleston 83, William and Mary 73. So
all right,
Charleston advances.
And I'm predicting the UConn women to advance to the championship game of their tournament as well. Will, go to a deli, order a big corned beef for me, and bring it back.
I don't think it'd make the plain back corn.
Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow from the arena. Thank you, Pro. Thank you, Brian. Great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.